Hi, everybody. As you can probably tell by my voice, I'm still not quite 100% from the bronchial cold I had. I'm getting better. It's making me feel better. Okay, slowly, but my throat's still sore from the coughing and stuff I've had to do. But as I am running out of videos, the show must go on. Let us begin with another one of my fun videos. This one is dedicated to the best friend of one of my favorite characters. Yes, Jimmy Olsen. Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen as a series was published by DC Comics from October 1954 until March 1974 for 163 issues, then was replaced with Superman Family starting with issue 164. Um, and that was, I believe, May, June 1974, because it came out bi monthly at that point. The popularity of Jack Larson playing Jimmy Olsen on the Adventures of Superman series convinced DC that a Jimmy Olsen series comic could work. Sure enough, they did, because they sold an average of 498,000 copies of the book monthly in 1960 alone. So they were right. Jimmy Olsen did have enough popularity to make a book work. To give this an idea, this was higher than sales of Detective, Wonder Woman, and Action Comics at the time. Jimmy Olsen was outselling one of the Superman titles. This success of Jimmy led to 1958's Lois Lane series with the Superman's girlfriend Lois Lane, because they wanted to see if that could work. Well, that worked just almost as well. Lois's sales were slightly less than Jimmy's over the 60s, but still was significant enough to make it to right to her to make it to March 1974 as well. Although the title began as a normal title for Jimmy, more and more the Jimmy Olsen stories started to get more fantastic. And a lot of things like body transformation. You get like Turtle Jimmy, Elastic Lad, Porcupine Jimmy, Fat Jimmy. There's a whole bunch of them that you get over the course of uh, probably a 5 year period in the early 60s. And the biggest and none of them were ever simple. Sure enough, he went back to the end, but they were, Jimmy was Jimmy, and that was that. At the start of the 1960s, my apologies, at the end of the 1960s, Jimmy's title had fallen. It wasn't as popular as it used to be. Even Neil Adams covers couldn't save it. The stories were getting a little, shall we say, blah and whatever. So when Jack Kirby came over in 1970 to DC, Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen was the book he was given. And so he worked on it from issue 133 to issue 148, which was from August 1970 to April 1972. After Kirby left, sales really fell. They bottomed out completely. So they decided to merge it with the Lois Lane, whose sales were also starting to fall, and Supergirl, whose title was about to be canceled. And they merged them into the Superman family book, which managed to last from issues 164 to issues 222. Okay. Kurt Swan cut his teeth at DC doing the early Jimmy Olsen stories. Although he had been working on World's Finest, it was when Jimmy Olsen started that Kurt was given a lot more leeway and got really more involved with the work there, led to a lot of the other work that he ended up at DC Comics. What I have done today is I've pulled a few Jimmys from near the end of the run that I'm going to talk about for a little bit. Okay? Okay, the drugs are bad, but Jimmy's good. All that other stuff. So let's take a look. We have Jimmy Olsen 130. This is The Computer Man of Steel, written by Leo Dorfman and art by Pete Costanza. I'm not 100% sure who did this cover. I probably should have looked it up, but anyway. Brainiac puts into action a plan to duplicate his intelligence in Superman. And with the help of Jimmy, he manages to create a plan that endangers Kandor. Olsen, the Teen Wonder. And pardon me, I forgot to turn this off. There we go. Pardon me. I'm not 100%. I'm a little off today. Olsen, the Teen Wonder, written by Bob Haney and art by Murphy Anderson, is the second story in this book. After Robin beats Jimmy for they call it the Young Man of the Year award, Jimmy asks Robin if he can impersonate him for 72 hours to see if he can catch crooks just as well as Robin can. But Olsen, as Robin, soon runs into a gang of flying crooks and needs Superman's help to get out of it. This, of course, was July 1970. This is the beginning of, I don't want to say the end. This kind of looks like a Kurt cover now that I look at it, but I'm not 100% sure. Because Kurt actually stopped doing covers around 1970 for a bit, and Neil Adams was becoming the big cover guy. For example, this one here. This is Jimmy Olsen 132. This looks like a Kurt Swan / Neil Adams cover, as in like a collaboration. Because you look at the guys and Superman's face and you see Kurt Swan, but you look at Jimmy and you see Neil. It's really weird. So we have September 1970s issues 132. This is the last issue before Kirby joined. The story, and there's two stories in here. The first one's called When Olsen Sold Out Superman, written by Leo Dorfman and art by Murphy Anderson. Jimmy Olsen is kidnapped by gangsters to try and make him reveal Superman's secret identity. Knowing that Perry White is not Superman, he says that Superman is the editor of the planet. Unfortunately, he didn't know that Clark was editor for the day. The next one is called The Winner's Prize, The Loser's Groove. And it's written by Bob Haney and art is by Pete Costanza. An island forms in the tropics, and due to the strategic importance in the Cold War, it is decided that the claim to the island will have to be decided by a battle between the USSR's Boris and the USA's Jimmy. Guess who wins? I mean, it's a big shock, right? Next up is issue 139, which is a significant issue because of the appearance of Don Rickles. This, of course, is during the period with Jack Kirby, and you can tell by the cover, that it's a Jack Kirby cover. Okay, Jack Kirby is doing the art, and he's doing some of the writing. So, we've got The Guardian Fights Again is the name of the story in here, and that's 139, July 1971. Written by Jack Kirby, art by Kirby, Vince Coletta, and Murphy Anderson. Morgan Edge is beset by Goody Rickles, a Don Rickles lookalike, who wants to break out of his ridiculous job and is assigned to investigate a UFO landing. But Clark Kent is abducted by the aliens, and the Guardian, Newsboy Legion, and Goody Rickles are captured by Mannheim and the Intergang with Jimmy Olsen, who are then forced to eat a meal that has been laced with pyrogranulite, which will kill them in 24 hours. How will Jimmy get them out of this? How will Clark Kent escape? you'll have to see in 2 issues, which unfortunately I don't have. The reason was the next issue, 140, was a 100-page or one of those 60 pages or whatever annuals that they were doing at the time with a lot of reprints, and then the Don Rickles Slash story continues in issue 141. Very strange. Next up, we have issue 146. Another Kirby cover. And this one is called Homo Disastrous. It's February 1972, written by Jack Kirby, art by Jack Kirby and Mike Royer. There are 2 stories in here, but only the first one concerns Jimmy. So I will only do the Jimmy story due to the fact that the second story does not apply to anything that goes here. Well, Superman, Double X, Terry Dean, and Guardian investigate. Oh, I need my glasses here. Sorry, guys. I know I'm bad at this. Need to learn how to write. And Guardian investigate the reveal that leads to the DNA project. The Newsboy Legion battles a caveman, Jimmy Olsen. Jimmy Olsen has been turned to a caveman. See, the craziness just is always there. And other menaces that was created by the 2 groups, Simeon and Mokari, which are 2 characters that were created by Jack Kirby. In here, they made him into a caveman. It's kind of weird and all that other stuff. I hope you're enjoying this, because I'm enjoying making this video. Next up, this one I do know the cover artist. The cover artist is Bob Oscar. This is October 1972's 153. Murder in Metropolis, written by John Albano, pencils by Mike Sikorsky, and inks by Mike Sikowski, and inks by Mike Esposito. Intergang chief Joe Darton puts Jimmy Olsen on his hit list for anti-gang activities and editorials that he has been writing lately. And they dump the body of Jimmy's double, Winky McCoy, at the Daily Planet to warn him and let him know. There's a second story in this book, but it doesn't focus on Jimmy, so again, I won't get into it. Now we're getting into the cool stuff, so to speak. This is Jimmy Olsen 156. It's a Nick Cardy cover. This is February 1973. And it's called Last Jump of a Sky Jumper. Written by Leo Dorfman, pencils by Kurt Schaffenberger, and inks by Vince Coletta. Jimmy Olsen gets involved in a skyjacking. That Last Jump of a Skyjacker. That's the name of it. He gets caught by skyjacking that isn't abruptly becomes the real thing. He was doing a fake one that suddenly became the real thing. The crooks get him. And then there's a second Jimmy Olsen story in this called The Three Who Vanished, written by Leo Dorfman, pencils by Kurt Schaffenberger, and inks by Vince Coletta. Jimmy Olsen finds 3 wanted men have been shrunken and placed in suspended animation by a criminal scientist. I love how Superman has his back on Jimmy on the cover. Like it's kind of funny, and then of course there's this big cat that's there to go get him. And this is issue 163. This is the final issue of Jimmy Olsen as Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen. This is March 1974. The cover is by Nick Cardy, and I'll move because, my hand is in the way. All right. A World That Came Before. Written by Leo Dorfman, art by Kurt Schaffenberger. Jimmy is sent back by a mystic jewel into the time of Marco Polo and helps save Kublai Khan with his something. Oh, genie. With his genie Kuroi. What the hell would a Kublai Khan have a genie? I remember reading this thinking it was like kind of nuts. Then the second story is the rip off on Pier 13, written by Dorfman, art by Kurt Schaffenberger. Jimmy Olsen and Lieutenant Jim Corrigan help take down Harry the Hawk and his group of waterfront smugglers. As I said, this is the last issue of Jimmy Olsen. Jimmy Olsen has had a long, long history. I mean, he's been Superman's best friend since at least 1939, when he was first the office boy at the Daily Star, unnamed in his first appearance, but became bigger and bigger as the time went on. And as I said, once the radio show and the TV show went on, the popularity of Jimmy just went through the roof, and so that's why we got this sort of thing. I hope you enjoyed the look at Jimmy. I pulled the later issues because everybody usually shows the 1960s Silver Age transformation books, and I wanted to show some books that were slightly different, to be a little different. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe below. I particularly want to know what Jimmy Olsen issues you have or have read and like or dislike, or even, have no opinion about. Jimmy Olsen is a lot of fun. I apologize for this not being my best video ever. I'm still recovering. But I wanted to make sure I had some stuff to share with everybody. So thank you very much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. My name is Matt. I like comics, and I hope you do too. Bye, everybody.